What's up, everybody? Big Herc. I'm chilling here with the homie from the north side, giving you some tales from the north side. And I'm going to have him kind of break down some misconceptions and provide some information on you guys on, the Norteños and Sureños in the prison system. So, one of the questions, I want to ask you is why are there predominantly two Mexican prison gangs in California, but really nowhere else?
You have to kind of go back in the history a little bit to the history of the California state prison system to understand that. But um, the the Hispanic or Latino population in the prison system back in the days was really being discriminated against by the system administration and the fact that you mainly had white inmates at that time controlling all the prisons in California. So in order to, kind of unite and get some kind of unity going, you had the Mexican mafia establish themselves, and their goals at that time were to educate the people, kind of teach them. They were teaching them basic like hand-to-hand combat type of stuff, how to protect themselves, and how to read and write, and it's just general stuff, betterment stuff for the people, and people like that. And at the same time, they unified themselves and were able to become more organized within the prison system, where they took control over certain prisons and they weren't being preyed on as much. So in a sense, you could say it started out as a good thing, right? But as time evolved, the group got into the drug trade, and within the prison system, and that expanded their power, where at some point they pretty much took over most of the prisons within the California state prison system, right? And then the issue with that is you had original members or individuals that got to see this group as more as a negative influence that was pushing drugs on them to sell drugs. For instance, they may know that my family's coming up to visit, so they'll have their homeboys go to my family's house and make them bring in drugs when they come to see me. And if I didn't do that, I would get stabbed, right? So whether I was with the Mexican mafia or not with the Mexican mafia, and those type of things started to, that oppression on your own people based just for financial gain is the reason why there was kind of a backlash to that, right? So at first it was just individuals standing up for themselves, and they would just get mowed down quickly, right? They would just get killed. But then that little spark got more people standing up, and then they would get kind of mowed down. And then finally they realized that there was people actually within the organization that was like, this is not what we started. This is not what we're about. We're not about the drugs. We're not about the oppression, about using our people and stuff like that. We have to break away. And they basically declared, they secretly organized themselves at that time. Even to this day, in the Nuestra Familia, right? And they said, this is our family, and we're not going to let you, contaminate it or fill it with drugs and whatnot. So they declared war, and they separated themselves, and they actually took over a few prisons, and those became strongholds for them at that time. And then there was a lot of battling on the streets as well, and killing. So the feds got involved, and that's when they created the SHU system, right? Indeterminate SHU system in the state prison system, and they validated these MA and NF members and took them off of main lines to keep them from the violence spreading outside of the prison onto the streets. So they validated and isolated them. So now you had the main people that were running the prisons no longer on the main lines, but you still had dudes from Southern California or from Northern California or wherever coming in the prison system. And so that's how you have the Sureños and the Norteños, because they had to have a tie to the main line and exert some kind of control, right? And you didn't have a Norteño, but what you might have had is you had individuals that weren't interested in doing anything for the MA, and the MA had their kind of lightweight homies, the Sureños out there on the main line kind of running shit, and dudes weren't with it. And they would stand up to this whatever group was out there representing the MA, and they might get fucked up, and they'll end up in the SHU, and they would run into an NF dude back there that was locked down, and then the guy might be coming back and forth to the shoe, and the NF dude was like, yo, why you keep coming back here to the shoe? Well, I keep standing up to these dudes, and I have to get down because they want me to move drugs for them, and they want me to do this for the MA, and I'm not with it. So then a lot of individuals were doing that. So the NF kind of took it upon themselves to guide anybody that kind of had the heart to stand up to the MA like they did, and gave them the necessary tools, basically like guerrilla warfare type of format for them to follow once they got back out of the shoe, and they took that format and educated others, and then that little group stopped coming back to the shoe. Basically, they were able to hold their own out there on the main line, and then they didn't, because of that, they kind of put a green light out on everybody from up north. They said anybody from Bakersfield on up, it was a green light because they possibly could be affiliated with NF. And they said, and because that's the northern part of California, they call them Norteños. So in the process of that happening, they ended up creating two gangs, right? So we never called ourselves, oh, we're Norteños. That wasn't the case, you know. So that was the name. Or basically, our enemies recognized us as that. Oh, they're from up north, or the Norteño just came in from up north, or whatever the case is. So, but there's dudes from down south. So don't get it twisted. There is NF members from down south. There's Norteños from this area that have chosen to embrace the cause, and from different parts of Southern California. Whether anybody wants to admit it or not, they are. I've met them. And there's OGs that are from the very beginning that are from down here because they were affiliated one way or another with the MA, but they were disgruntled, right? So they left that, and they came to us because of it was just a different belief system. So that, and you know, the other thing is almost every state, every big state has multiple Latin or Hispanic type gangs, right? So you have like the Latin Kings or Latin Gangster Disciples, right? And they sometimes go to war. In Texas, it's crazier than California. They got the Syndicate, they got Mexican Mafia, they got the Aztec or Texas Mafia, Texas MN, they got Aztecas, they got Pistoleros, they got so many, they got Tango Blast, stuff like that. So there's a little bit, their political system as far as state goes is even crazier than ours. You know, but ours is more established, has been around longer, and so a lot of them kind of gravitate to one or another. They're either affiliated with the MA, and because they're really into the, let's say maybe they don't have a problem using dope or selling dope or whatever, where NF, they're really kind of more on a pure type of existence within the prison system, right? There's zero tolerance for shit. You know, they're not going for that. So, but that is the history on why in California we have a north and a south.
Lockdown's over. Get your yard time in. Exclusively at FreshOutSeries.com.